What is really interesting about the old Dzogchen of Tibet is that it is wild in its expression. Now it's tame, with all respect, but now it's quite tame because the Dzogchen method has, long ago has been incorporated and joined with the monastic system. So that always, of course, monks, monastics, so that tends to tone down the wildness quite a bit. There are wild monks also, wild nuns in the history, but in general, it's pretty keeping things clean, nice, and quiet. But the way how I understand what is my first-hand experience, and also first-hand experience of many us present, when we practice Guru Yoga and when we have practiced Guru Yoga with the old ancient masters of Dzogchen, you can feel, these are not tame people. These are wild. Not wild in the sense of erratic, but they have something really genuine and pure, and in that sense, untamed. So I've also thought to myself, I might have just gotten the information from some anthropology book about, ancient tribal dances and ancient tribal culture, but, well, I don't read books much, so I rather, try and experiment and discover things myself. It has made my path much more interesting than, reading books. But I think there is one of the ideas that Big Boss told me a couple of years ago was about, thinking of our little community, our group, sort of like a unified group. You might call it tribe. Tribe is kind of a new agey word, isn't it? But but anyway, you get the point that it's a close-knit group. There's a lot of power. There's a deep empowerment involved when we do practices together that are so effective, so powerful, so potent that it cuts through to the basic state. It is immensely powerful to do it together, to do these practices together. And we already know it, right? But there is something, what I meant with the, history of tribes and tribal cultures is that singing and dancing, maybe around the bonfire, that's something very, very basic that people have done, I don't know, tens of thousands of years. Human species is roughly 200,000 years old, our species. So, people have done it. Maybe even before that, our how do you say, non-human ancestors. So what I'm getting to is that when I thought about this retreat, and I've thought about the first live retreat after the COVID for a long time, we all have, right? But that freshness, now that we are finally here, I hope that the practices that we do, and I actually have no doubt, of course, otherwise I wouldn't be saying this and we wouldn't be doing the practices that we do. But there is something incredibly profound in dancing together. In stomping practice, we use a simple, stomping. While chanting syllables, shouting syllables. And when we all do it together, so this we will do tomorrow. So stomping. Sorry, I'm kind of, my connection is cutting a little bit. Has been so tiring to come over to this venue and pack my stuff. So stomping practice, and then the morning dance that we will do listening music. I got this. It's small, this speaker, but it's mean. It has good bass and good sound. So I got that one for us to, how do you say, support our dancing. So the morning dance will be no form. So you dance like you just let yourself free in expression. And I'm pretty sure that when I say this, some of you feel very terrified about the whole idea. But that's exactly the point. So I will put music loud enough, and then we'll just dance. Just dance, just express ourselves through dancing. Whatever kind of movement, doesn't matter. Whether it's, let's say, very, how do you say, athletic, like whether it's very expressive or whether it's very, very small, doesn't matter. What matters is what happens in our mind. That's always the first thing, isn't it? Because what we are doing here with Dharma practice is mind first and foremost. Getting from the self-based samsaric mind to our original condition. And in this, dancing can be very helpful. So we will do some prep that helps us to get out from the self-based habits, and then we will dance like hell. There is no time when we didn't have our basic nature. There is no moment, no time when we didn't have our basic wakefulness, basic purity. So I'm saying this to point out, like I often do in the beginning of sessions, that if we kind of do some preparations, align our body and put our body in balance and so on, so that we can later meditate. Not like that. Although we also, of course, align our bodies well. A technical term that is used for the recognition of basic nature is non-meditation. Not meditating. Not meditating in the sense how meditation or dhyana, which is a Sanskrit word, is used. Which means that no one-pointed concentration, but also no distraction. Oh, that's a tricky one, isn't it? Immediately makes it... What? Our basic nature is pure, clear, sober, settled, completely in balance, without distortions. Without distortions. Isn't that something? We all know so well what is life with distortions. Even on a good relaxed day, samsaric mind has like non-stopping distortions. little irritations. Something, even on a good day. But this is just samsaric mind that goes around in circles, in and around the notion of me, I, self. It's a unfortunate habit that has formed over time. But our basic nature is free of such notions. It doesn't mean that the basic nature is thoughtless. But it means that the samsaric mind is sort of like something, if we think in terms of an analogy of a garden and weeds in a garden. Nobody's growing weeds purposefully. People are growing roses, flowers, chrysanthemums, lilies, tulips, carrots, fruits, berries, what have you. But nobody purposefully grows weeds. Right? At least I have never met such a person. Maybe there is somebody somewhere. But you get my point. So it's kind of like samsaric mind is kind of like weeds. A good gardener knows, recognizes, notices quickly, oh, there's some, what do you call it, siblings? This little growth of weed here and there among flowers, vegetables, fruits. So, good gardener puts an end to that quickly. But in a garden or a yard that is unattended, when nobody's watching it, it quickly spreads. Samsaric mind, our self-notion, self-beliefs are exactly like that. This stuff grows there when it's unattended, when we are not aware. And in this way, kind of accidentally, unattended, our existential pain is born and grows and spreads. Unattended. There's been so many great masters in India, in Tibet, in China, everywhere. And I might be remembering wrong. I usually do that it was Tilopa, Mahasiddha Tilopa, who said it when he gave the instruction of watch your mind. Remember, some other master has said guard your mind, which is exactly this point about gardening and growing, supporting those good qualities, basic qualities to grow rather than the weeds. As you know, in our practice, our whole practice from beginning to end can be summarized by two modes, two steps, the same ones as in, what is it called, two-step formula? Two-part formula. Uh, so, what were there again? So the first one is that we have techniques. We have dynamic concentration that enables, makes possible for us to, for anybody to recognize this basic state without self-based notions. So when we cut through with repeated shouting or physical dynamic concentration, however you apply it, this gives us an immensely valuable opportunity that doesn't exist in 99.99% of all methods out there. Because folks don't practice dynamic type of concentration. So, two modes, in one way or the other, with many of our techniques, be it chanting tantric mantras and calming the aura, tapping the body, dynamic concentration, whatever it is that we do, we always first recognize that selfless mind. We punch a hole into the aura, and from that hole the light and radiance and energy of the basic state immediately is recognized, because it is our basic nature. Recognition of it doesn't need to be done. Recognition doesn't need to be exercised. It happens when the samsaric mind and its many distortions is dropped. So it happens automatically, recognition. So when we have that first part, first mode in check, we have that experience. Then from that experience, we start watching the mind. What is going on in our mind? What is this samsaric loop that I'm stuck in? So we start becoming aware of our delusions and confusions. This is Vipassana. This is classical Buddhist meditation. So a lot of what we do with dynamic concentration, with calming, with tapping, with guru yoga, we just establish the first part, the first mode, so that we can effectively, from that clarity and sobriety of the basic state, we can apply analytical meditation, also known as Vipassana. And this makes Vipassana practice especially effective, as you know. So what we do in Pemako practice is that we apply the universal principles of yogic practice into our mind, our energy body that is same universally among human beings. So we simply apply the principles expressed in techniques in a kind of a, innovative manner. And this makes all the difference, as you know. Maybe I should say a little bit more about watching the mind, about Vipassana. So there is one potential pitfall with what we do with the first mode, which is that if you use dynamic practices, guru yoga, any technique to get rid of thoughts and emotions. This is a pitfall. Because when you shoo it away, when you push it away, punch it away, this is spiritual bypassing. And of course, you can't get get the job done that way. We need to illuminate our baggage. We need to release our confusions. And if we keep bypassing it, that won't happen. So that's one thing. My experience about if somebody wonders like how can you be sure that to not fall into that pitfall, I remember that when my 11th Bhumi opened 5 years ago yesterday, then I didn't need to seek for the basic state anymore. As you know, 11th Bhumi is a Mahasiddha Bhumi, which is you could say outside the whole samsaric body, karmic body. So you have access to this basic state after the 11th opens. And this helps tremendously because it's just there. So you don't first have to do something to access the basic state and then to practice Vipassana. Having said that, what I've said many times before, even if 11, 12, 13 is open and this makes the basic state your default mode most of the time, still you have the samsaric patterns and habits sometimes causing hell in the mind. So it's not like it's a very significant step in practice to get to open Mahasiddha Bhumis, but you still have a lot of work to do after that. I often say that kind of in the beginning of the practice, you can't do too much dynamic concentration. Because, as you know, it's a wonderful, I shouldn't even say wonderful, it's an effective way, it's a functional way to access the basic state. And that's all it is. And recognizing basic state is, first and foremost in all, in the whole Vajrayana path. And what is beginning of practice? I guess it depends. I can't say 1 year, 3 years. It depends what is one's internal need for practice. Some people it's less. For some people it's a lot. Some people practice from the day one of practicing the Dharma, yoga, as if their hair was on fire. So I can't say that it's 1 or 2 or 3 years. Beginning means that, let's say that well, maybe I could say that until your 11th is open, you still kind of don't understand what the basic state is. But when 11th opens up, then you know. And then you understand what is the relationship between the basic state and the self-based fabrications. So maybe that would be a way to define. beginning stage and what is kind of a intermediate stage. So we can draw the conclusion that as long as we don't know ourselves as the basic state and its basic characteristics of clarity, sobriety, settledness, groundedness, freshness, lovingness, kindness, then hung pet, hung pet, hung pet, hung pet, punch, 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 punch. I have also a wristband. It's not a yellow one. It's keep punching. Keep punching, folks. This is an official Rocky movie product. I had to get it. I'm a huge fan of Rocky because I grew up watching those movies, but also because of the message. This is, to me, it's kind of like, even though it's written by Sylvester Stallone, it's so fitting, isn't it? This is like when Tilopa or some other ancient master says, watch your mind or guard your mind. This first. Keep punching. And I know I'm kind of getting sidetracked, but I know perfectly well from my own experience that I'm not going to sugarcoat this, but samsaric mind fucks us up properly. Samsaric emotions, when they tangle with the notion of self and create notion of self, fucks us up. Isn't it? Completely wrecks, ruins our day. So that's why. Keep punching. In Japan, they have this saying. They have these dolls, Daruma dolls. It's Daruma is the Japanese name for Bodhidharma originally. Bodhidharma was the southern Indian Zen monk who traveled from southern India to China and started Shaolin monastery. So anyway, they have these Daruma dolls that have a round shape on the bottom, and it's like a bottom heavy, kind of like shaped like a drop. So it does this movement because it's bottom heavy. It tilts like this from side to side. But even if you push it heavily to the side, it bounces right back up. So in Japan they have a saying that, how does it go? 7 times down, 8 times up. Keep punching. So no matter how hard it gets, and I know that it can get very hard, we can live in the hell realm. We can live in our everyday life in a hell, in our mind. But if we keep punching, the hell will be shattered. No matter how hard, how difficult, the pain and confusion and the sense of being lost coming from the small self is, there is no chance it will, there is no chance it can, how should I say, like stay when we practice dynamic concentration. There is some genius little wisdom in movies like Rocky. There's another one, like I'm a huge Sylvester Stallone fan, and I just have to share this. In Rambo 3, actually, today I was in my building. There was a lady today who had 4 Tibetan Spaniels. You know that dog breed? It's a small, cute, fluffy dog, and really, really beautiful dogs. I had one when I was a boy, Tibetan Spaniel. Guess what was the name? Rambo. And in Rambo 3 there is close to the end, before the final battle, there is a situation where there is I think it happens in Afghanistan. So there is an Afghan guerrilla, Afghan revolution soldier, who is Rambo's kind of companion there in Afghanistan. And this rebel soldier, he tells Rambo a story. And I've told this story. Some of you have heard it from me. So there was two rivaling kingdoms, and they went to war with each other. But the other one didn't want to fight a war. So the king who wanted to conquer the other kingdom, he sent, figuratively speaking, 500 sheep to battle fight. But the other king, who didn't really want to fight, but he took a moment to think about it, he sent 5 lions. And of course, the lions won. I've often thought about this story. Now I'm getting completely sidetracked. So, I've often thought about this because there is so much. There's a good point there, because I often thought about what are we doing with Dharma? There's a lot of sheep Dharma out there. A lot of practices that, well, you know what I'm talking about. I've been talking about this for a decade, more. So I always wanted to practice the Dharma and teach Dharma that grows lions rather than sheep. And this, of course, sheep and lions, it's also a widely used analogy in Dharma. So I was talking about the 2 modes and Vipassana. Or do you want me to? I remember another Rambo story. So, how to practice Vipassana? So first, establish basic state. That is always number 1. When you feel that you are contracted, you feel that selfing, you feel it physically, you feel like it's like too tight clothes, or you feel that it feels heavy here. Maybe it's like a really heavy, or maybe it's just a little heavy, squeezing just a little bit to make you feel not right. Humpet, 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 humpet. Fight your way out of there. And then we practice seeing clearly, or clear seeing. We look into the phenomena that makes us contract. Phenomena, it's a very widely used word. Dharma, one of the translations of Dharma is actually phenomena. And it's you see in Mahayana Buddhism, Vajrayana, you see these phrases like emptiness of all phenomena, or exhaustion of all phenomena. So phenomena means thoughts, emotions. Thoughts and emotions are like, when we look around the room, you can see carpets, tables, chairs, mirrors, paintings, windows, drapes, lights, books. You can see all these objects easily. I can point out to that light, and I can immediately see the shape of it, the size of it, the texture of it, can get a sense of that object. Right? Thoughts and emotions are like that. When we watch the mind, we can pretty easily start noticing that thoughts and emotions have a easily detectable, easily noticeable form. It's kind of like that kind of thought is a bubble like that, with a texture and feel and color and shape like that. Then there is other thought or other emotion, and it's shaped like that, and it has a texture and feel and color and tone like that. Some thoughts, some emotions are small, some are big, some are very big. Some are dense, kind of feels like thick, dense, or it can be big and dense, or it can be light in texture. Anyway, thoughts and emotions are easy to notice. This is the work of Bhumi terrain 1 through 6. This is, well, I won't say what vehicle. Then there is subtle samsaric energy. I often compare this to fog, mist. So we can have like fog, mist, smoke. We can have very thick fog, mist. Kind of like being somebody who's really depressed. There you have thick smoke, thick fog. Somebody who's a little depressed. Depression is not a this is actually a very important distinction. So depression is a state, a person who's depressed has no problem with monkey mind or busy mind. Depression is kind of like you're just stuck. There is this energy that I wouldn't say squeezes you, but it surrounds you and fills you, and you're just stuck there, kind of like in a mud. And whatever you see, whatever you look, whatever you meet, whatever you do, you can't enjoy anything because you're in this thick gray smoke or fog. Right? So there you have a perfect example of a really common, I've been depressed also. I'm sure some of you have been depressed, like properly depressed. So it's a very common condition caused by subtler layers of the mind. So there you don't have clearly noticeable forms anymore, you just have subtle energy that doesn't have form, but can still be so strong that it completely distorts ruins your life. So this is an example of unpurified, like, how should I say, unpurified bhumis 7 through 10. And as you work with purification practices, then the smoke gets thinner and thinner and thinner until it is no more. Thinner and thinner and thinner. And one of the challenges with purifying 7, 8, 9, 10 bhumis is to not be able to detect, if we had a smoke machine in our little disco and we pressed this room full of smoke, and then we waited for, let's say, 2 hours for the smoke to go away. The fog of the especially 9th and 10th bhumis gets so subtle that you don't see it. It's very difficult to detect. So you might be after 2-3 hours, the smoke has been evaporating, but you kind of still watch the air like, is there smoke or isn't there? But you don't quite feel natural. That's the whole point. It doesn't feel complete. It doesn't feel completely natural. So something is saying in the back of your mind that there must be some smoke, but I'm not sensing it. And here, exactly here, is the immense gift of Tantra. No matter what the practice is that one has learned in a tantric lineage, no matter what the practice is, as long as there is an empowerment in authentic lineage and some practice to, some technique to exercise that empowerment, this enables that we can quite easily notice when the air is clear or when there is the subtlest of fogs. This is an immense gift to learn authentic tantra, because it literally means that authentic tantric practice makes it possible to purify the whole samsaric mind, in other words, to become a fully enlightened Buddha. So did I say enough about Vipassana? Maybe I should say something about, I've been, for 3 years, I've been writing this text document that is only like 3 or 4 pages long. And I actually lost it at one point, so I had to ask Carl for a copy. But it's about preliminary practices in our method, preliminaries. And one of the preliminary techniques is 2PF. And second one is a very commonly practiced simple Vipassana meditation called noting or labeling. Noting or labeling. And I'm just mentioning this here. I'm still yet to write the damn document, but noting is a nice little technique to get a hang of Vipassana, to start understanding what to do with Vipassana. So here's a tip. Here's the outline of noting practice. You're sitting there and you have made your way to the basic state, so you feel clear and sober. And then you start looking back in the mind. You start looking back into all kinds of thoughts, emotions, feelings, sensations that you have. And as you look into thoughts, feelings, emotions, sensations, you give a label to each of those thoughts, feelings, sensations. For example, I'm here practicing recognizing the basic state, and there's a thought in our mind, so I put a label on it. That's a thought. Then another thought appears, sooner or later, another thought. So you put a label on it. Thought, like stamping it. Thought, thought, thought as in the form of memory, thought in the form of idea, again thought in the form of memory, just thought, this thought created emotional reaction, so emotion, that ignited another memory, thought in the form of memory, and another emotion. So label, simply. You label what is happening in your mind. There are different takes on noting practice, how it is practiced, because some lineages, they label also like physical sensations. They might label that the body feels heavy, the body feels soft, warm, noting breathing, or breathing, sound, touch on the skin. But I don't think that's relevant to notice what is happening in the physical body, because like I said in the beginning, practice of Dharma happens in the mind. So mind needs to be priority. So you simply label in a very simple way what is happening in your mind. Or when you for example, you use thought, emotion, you might add what kind of emotion. So let's say, what kind of emotional energy is this? What is this? What is this emotional state? Oh, this is frustration. This is irritation. So it is very useful tool and challenging also in the beginning, because our samsara is made of weeds growing unattended. So we might have difficulty in the beginning to how should I say, recognize what the emotion is. You might be saying that, well, that's anger. But then you figure out that, well, that's not actually anger. It's something, it's anger-like, but it's not actually anger. Then you realize that, oh, it's anxiousness. Right? So you might have, in the beginning, but you will figure it out. Just watch your mind very closely and then put a label on it. Or if it is, like I mentioned, like fogs, misty energy, you might notice that I sense this as like a thick, dense fog. Or you might notice that it's a thin fog. Do you understand this noting labeling practice? Try it. It's a really simple way, and I teach it the way I now presented it in a very simple manner. But you understand that whatever objects you perceive in your mind, you just put a stamp on it. What is that object like? And this can help you to be better aware of what is going on in the mind. And this is, of course, very important. So there you have two. Of course, then when you already know your mind, you know this stuff, you know the game of self-based thoughts, emotions, subtle energy, then you don't need to label anymore. Yeah. So that's the main practice. Mingling of the two modes, mingling of the two parts, selfless and self-based, from the beginning to the end. Literally from the beginning. The two-part formula that pops out the grossest subject self behind the eyes starts from this. And it is the same principle through the whole purification process, from first bhumi to 10th. It is exactly the same. I've told this before, but I remember the morning of 15th of March this year, when I had my last practice session as a samsaripi at 9 a.m. If you start thinking, wait a second, 9 a.m., that's not very early. He's a lazy guy. That's true. So anyway, I remember I started doing my practice that morning, and I was sitting for a moment, and then I was chanting our empowerment mantras, avam, and then the additional syllables with advanced empowerment. I was combing. Bill, avam, 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 like this. And I stopped, and I could feel the spiritual power, energy, Shakti of Avam. And I sensed on the edge of my aura a layer that was this thick, the 10th Bhumi layer in the aura. 10th Bhumi layer that I had been working on for the past year and a half. So it was there, it was this thick, the layer, but it was almost transparent. Like I said, smoke, very thin, but I could clearly perceive it. And then, poof, it just evaporated at 9:05 a.m. So there you had it again, the two parts, until the very last moment of karmic purification. Worked for me, will work for you. Thank you very much. Good night. All right, ladies and gents, should we take 5 minutes for... Let's take 10 minutes for toilet. Take a rhythm. No, listen. Now let me show you first. To clap, do both, then just do the feet. So that you really stomp, you punch your leg, your foot to the ground. It's a dynamic activity. It's not like sleeping like this. So you put your energy into it. Go, big, ball, check. Okay, let's drop the hands. Na, mo, go, ro, ring, ho, che, na, mo, ye, she, so, yao, ye. Na, mo, go, ro, ring, ho, che. Na, mo, ye, she, so, yao, ye. Na, mo, go, ro, ring, ho, che. Na, mo,
Rinpoche. Namo Yeshe Tsogyal. Namo Guru 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 Rinpoche. Namo Yeshe Tsogyal. Stomp. Namo Guru Rinpoche. Namo Yeshe Tsogyal. 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 Namo Guru Rinpoche. Namo Yeshe Guru Rinpoche. Namo Yeshe Tsogyal. Namo 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 Guru Rinpoche. Namo Yeshe Tsogyal.
See how you feel.
I vow to liberate
All sentient beings, I vow to end all self-based confusion. I vow to exercise the Dharma that frees. I vow to attain the great perfection. I vow to liberate all sentient beings. I vow to end all self-based confusion. I vow to exercise the Dharma that frees. I vow to attain the great perfection. I vow to liberate all sentient beings. I vow to end all self-based confusion. I vow to exercise the Dharma that frees. I vow to attain the great perfection.
I take refuge in the Guru.
I take refuge in this pure land. I take refuge in the Buddha. I take refuge in the Dharma. I take refuge in the Sangha. I take refuge in the Guru. I take refuge in this pure land. I take refuge in the Buddha. I take refuge in the the Dharma. I take refuge in the Sangha. I take refuge in the Guru. I take refuge in His pure land. I take refuge in the Buddha. I take refuge in the Dharma. I take refuge in the Sangha.
I am the Guru.
I'm in the Pure Land. I am the Buddha. I am the Dharma. I am the Sangha. I am the Guru. I'm in the Pure Land. I am the Buddha. I am the Dharma. I am the Sangha. I am the Guru. I'm in the Pure Land. I am the Buddha. I am the Dharma. I am the Sangha. May all beings be free. May all beings be free. May all beings be free. All beings are free. All beings are free. All beings are free. May all beings receive my accumulated merit. I dedicate the merit to the refuge and to all sentient beings.
Please put your palms together.